All right. Well, this is Josiah Jones from Visit Clearfield County, serving as the PA Wilds Ambassador for Wilds Are Working series. I'm here today with Linda and Henry Shaffer from the Inn at Narrows Creek. I just want to say welcome, Linda and Henry. We're glad to
Thank
have
you.
you with us to share how you are pivoting your company amid these uncharted times. So thanks and welcome.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your company? You mentioned before we even came on screen, you have a really good story to talk about of how this all came about, and I think everybody would love to hear the story.
Well, our intention never was to someday own a bed and breakfast. We used to see Bob Newhart when he had a bed and breakfast up in New England, but we're not like that. Um, so we're from this area originally. After college, we joined a Christian organization and spent about 9 years all around the United States. And then we decided to move back to our area, mainly so our kids could grow up around their grandparents. And so, trying to make a long story short, um, my primary employment at that time was a residential contractor. I built houses, probably 7 or 8 houses a year, in a recreational resort in Dubois called Treasure Lake. It has residential homes and vacation homes and all the amenities that anybody would ever want. And it was a great life, but that pivoted a little bit whenever our family decided to go on a mission trip to Jamaica. And on that trip, we visited a little remote village that kind of stole our heart, and we decided, the family, to see what we could do to adopt this little town, so see if we could make a difference. And our desire was just to share the love of God with these people by helping them with whatever their greatest needs were. And so we started to go down as often as we could for a week or two at a time. And friends and relatives saw what we were doing, so they said, take us along. So we started taking people with us. It ended up becoming a group, which ended up becoming groups. And suddenly it was starting, we realized that we were spending about a third of our year traveling back and forth to Jamaica. Plus, we had a business that was running, and something had to happen, had to give. One of the two had to be sacrificed. Our business, which was contracting, how we made a living, our our mission in Jamaica was our passion. So we decided that the business would be the one that would be sacrificed, and so we still had to make a living. And so the idea came of starting a craft store, because that was something that Linda was always interested in. But we didn't think that we would be able to survive in our area in a strip mall or something like that, being away from home and all that kind of sacrifices that you would have to make to be an entrepreneur like that. That we could make a living doing that. So we were thinking about maybe a compatible business that could go along with that. So the idea came of a store and a bed and breakfast. And so actually, didn't Linda didn't know anything about this at the time. I had found property, I had designed the property, and because building houses, we would move all the time. We'd move into a better house, and then build another, and build a bigger house and a nicer house. And finally, Linda said, no more. And so we found the ultimate, living on the lake in a big colonial house. And she said, never ask me again. So I had to have all the boxes checked, because she was going to ask me a million questions. And she said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So in 2000 or
1998.
1998, we started building this bed and breakfast, which was designed after a 18th century New England inn. And so it took us a year to build it. And the day we opened up, we were cash positive, and we have been ever since.
That's great.
And our outreach in Jamaica, which is huge now, we've taken about 25,000 people down over those years, and have built over 1,000 houses and given to people down there, and have a staff of about 100 people now.
Wow.
From Americans and Jamaicans. And so that's how we got into the bed and breakfast. And Linda can tell you more about that.
Okay.
Well, it's like he said, it started in 1998 and started kind of slowly, but picked up fairly quick. We knew it was a good idea that we had the bed and breakfast because it probably was 2/3 of the income at that point, with a third with the store. It's now it's closer now. And so we can't give up either one right now. But about 5 years ago, we added an addition onto the salt box house that we live in, and moved downstairs and hired my cleaning lady and her husband to live upstairs. And she basically runs the bed and breakfast. So I'm really spoiled. I run the store, I check people in and out, but she does everything else: the shopping, the cooking, the cleaning. And we are free to travel.
Nice.
So that's the best part about this, because we're both in our early 70s, and it's time that we got to do a little more visiting with our children, who almost all live in the South, 2 in Tampa and 1 in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I have to say, it is a beautiful place. The inn's beautiful, and so is the shop. And I would highly recommend anybody to go and check out both or one of those places. Again, thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Just to move on, how are you pivoting your operations amid this crisis? If I'm correct, I don't think you did shut down. Is that right, Linda,
No,
Henry?
no, we didn't. People were still traveling some. So we were still getting visitors at the bed and breakfast. One unique feature that we do have is that we serve breakfast in the rooms. They don't meet at a central dining room in our home. And it was a good choice for us in the beginning. We started it that way, and it's proved to be the best choice. We don't waste time. We don't waste money. They get to be in their PJs if they want to, and they like it. And during this COVID situation, it's worked out even better. We would just take the tray to the door and hand it to them if they wanted us to, or take it in, set it on the table for them. So the bed and breakfast and the country store, the slowest 2 months of the year for us are March and April. So it lined up pretty well, actually, with what we usually
That's good to
experience. It was a
hear.
little slower, but it wasn't bad. I mean, and the store, it was kind of a come as you are if you want to come, because people that are here usually are 1 or 2 at a time anyhow. It's not like we
Mhm.
have a big crowd at once. And so I kept open mostly online and by appointment. I didn't keep my regular hours opening it every day, Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 5, until just, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, when everything really opened up again. So it's almost back to normal. Now I can't really say that, it hurt us too bad. It slowed everything down, but it was a good time to reflect and everybody to get their act together, I think.
Well, isn't that the truth? It really
Hmm.
has given us a great opportunity to slow down and enjoy those things that are really should be most important to us. I agree.
Right.
Well, that's great to hear that, everything's kind of just went smooth for you, and at the downtime it didn't hurt you. For everybody else, in other pieces of the lodging industry, it's been a real struggle, even for the tourism agency too. But happy to hear that everything's went very well for you throughout this process. So, how are you staying in touch with your customers? Like, are there different platforms you're using, social media or newsletters or anything like that you use to stay in touch with customers?
Um, we've always had a massive email list, which we have just changed to MailChimp. And we also are on Facebook a lot. There, Stacy comes in again, my employee, because she's the techie one. I'm not. And so we try to put something every week here or there on the store or the bed and breakfast. Just post some pictures. During the time that I wasn't open full time, we did sell things on the internet too. I don't know that I want to get into that full time, but it's available if somebody, really needs us to mail something to them. We can show them pictures on the internet. So yeah, we have used it,
Well,
and
that's good. So
it's
I know,
helped. Yeah.
good. I know a lot of people have added the online shopping and everything, and that's really helped out a lot of other businesses. That's good to hear. What operational pivots, approaches will you continue to use as we move into recovery? I think you've already mentioned one. You probably continue the online shopping, but again, for the most part, you've just kind of maintained and done the same thing. Is there anything else that you might just continue that you just started?
I don't think so. I was trying to think of that before we hooked on with you, but I don't think so. I mean, through situations, you learn different things, and you learn how to treat your customers better, how to serve their needs better. Um, but I don't, we always had a good rapport with most of our customers. A lot of ours are return customers. And so that proves that point, especially with the bed and breakfast. We've had a couple that's actually, he's here tonight, and they started coming here years and years ago when we first opened. They live in New York City. They came when they were first married, and then they came with a dog, and now they've come with children, and now they have a different dog. But he's coming back again tonight, and I think he travels to somewhere in Chicago for family or business, and they stop here on the way and on the way back. So a lot of that happens, and a lot
That's
of
great.
repeat customers in the store and in the bed and breakfast.
When we were deciding about a bed and breakfast, did a lot of research, and although a bed and breakfast, some people have a romantic desire of maybe retiring someday and building or converting someplace into a bed and breakfast and having a business during the retirement years. But you don't run a bed and breakfast, or you don't build a bed and breakfast. You're married to a bed and breakfast, and so your life is committed to that business. And that was the unfortunate thing for Linda whenever she was running the business and allowing me to take groups to Jamaica, is that she just couldn't leave. She had customers and she had a store to run, but the couple that we have that run the store makes that possible for us now.
That's
we also
excellent.
realize that for a bed and breakfast, you have to make a bed and breakfast for as a destination, a standalone destination.
Sure.
That, apart from anything else in the area that might be available, people would want to come to your place in particular. And so we have 2.5 acres, and they're all usable acres. We have a stream that runs through our property, and we're in a shagbark hickory area, so we have lots of trees, and we have gardens and aquatic ponds and all those kinds of things like that. We're a half a mile off Interstate 80, and we're right next to the entrance to Treasure Lake, and people have access to Treasure Lake because of our association with them. So that's really been a big help for us. And besides, we're the only bed and breakfast in our area
right now.
Yeah.
And the elk have been a big draw. I'm sure you
Oh,
all
big
know
time.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we have
Yep.
people come back all times of the year, not just in the fall,
Right.
to go visit the elk. So that's been a big draw for us.
It sure has. Yeah, we've utilized that ourselves as a tourism agency. Focus a lot on the elk viewing as well.
Yep.
But I want to
Yep.
thank you for keep plugging the Treasure Lake Resort too. That's important. It's nice to have good partners in the industry, and that kind of leads me into the next question. Any programs, resources, or organizations that you found helpful that you'd encourage other small business owners to check out?
Well, the chamber is very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Our Dubois chamber. Anything you need, any kind of advertising you want to pass through them, they're always ready to take it on, and they do it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. We're also part of, oh boy, what is it? Well, the Clearfield County Tourism.
Sure.
And the Pennsylvania Northwest Great Outdoors too. We're kind of a side issue with that since we aren't in Jefferson County, but they're good about pushing our advertisement too.
Good.
And we're on all the national search engines. So if you're traveling if you're traveling across country and you know that your first trip, you're coming from Massachusetts, and your first day you're going to lay over somewhere in central Pennsylvania, and you type in, there are certain people that like to stay in bed and breakfast rather
Sure.
than hotels. So we can come up on any of the search engines, even
Airbnb.
Airbnb,
Yeah,
and
we pop up on
so
all of them, so that's good.
yeah,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and then you have the signs out there on 80 as well.
yeah.
So that's pretty good advertising. See, what you were just referencing too is someone's coming from Massachusetts and they're halfway to wherever they're going. Dubois is a great stop, and that is for most major cities. Anybody traveling to any of the major cities, say from Chicago to DC or New York or
Yep.
whatever it may
Yep.
be, and that's kind of our slogan here at Visit Clearfield County is we are halfway to everywhere. The everywhere is a little bit
That's
vague,
true.
but it's true. I mean, we go to different hotels. I'll ask people, why are they here? And a lot of times they're meeting family because it's a halfway point or
It's a good
they're
stopping
halfway
point. Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah. So
Yep.
so we're kind of lucky. We have the convenience of Interstate 80 right there in our backyard. So that's great to hear. Yeah, the chamber. I know that they've been very supportive of all the small businesses as well. It's always important to be a part of that. Any silver linings in this awful situation?
Well, I mean, we all had, I think most of us had good health precautions put in place, but
Mhm.
at anytime you are tempted to skip that, it makes you think, no, I shouldn't. I probably should always be that way. And so if it's taught us anything, even though we all have common sense, um, I think to be more aware of it so that you're protecting yourself all the time, not just when there's an episode like this.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's important too. It's kind of crazy, all the soap and hand sanitizer and everything. Toilet paper has gone missing. You're like, well, what were you doing before, right?
Really,
So
I think having your finances in order too, and
Mhm.
not overextending yourself because you don't know when something like this is going to happen. And if you're really thin and you're having a hard time surviving even before something like this
Yeah.
happens, uh, you can crash and burn real quick. So
true.
we've been fortunate enough to always be able to go without borrowing any money or anything like that. So
That's great to
we've
hear.
always been debt free.
Good, good. That's great to hear.
Mhm.
Do you have a moment of humanity or inspiration that has helped you get through these tough times?
Well, obviously our faith, um, we believe that all things work out for good, and even bad things work out for good. For
Mhm.
the scripture says that
Yep.
for those who love the Lord, all things work out. So you know we we've been more appreciative of our faith, and then we're also involved in a small group of several couples who get together, a couple times a month, and uh, so that was a substitute for not being able to meet, in a church setting, and
Sure.
so all those couples we drew together a lot closer doing that because they were all going through the same thing, and so
Sure. Yeah, and I know for myself, for my church, we weren't able to meet, so we made it a point to use social media for videos, and
yeah,
it was actually a good opportunity to reach out to those that may be unsaved and may not go to church.
Yep.
They were following those videos and watching those videos.
oh
So
yes,
Yeah.
so it was. I mean, you could look at this as in a situation where it's good or bad, but for the most part, you know, to get through it and look at it in a positive aspect and
yeah.
to again slow down and see what's important. I think that was what was really helpful
Well,
about
And
most
and
of
the
the
fear
situation.
factor wasn't there. The fear
Right,
factor isn't there for us. It's like,
right,
if it
right.
happens, it happens. We're not in charge.
Mhm.
One of these days people will realize they're not in charge.
Yep, yep. I agree. You're right. You're
What's
right.
going to happen is going to happen. You just kind of
You're
have to
right.
go with the flow.
That's right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Again, Linda, Henry, thank you so much for taking the time to allow me to interview you. And again, for those watching, the interview and other resources for small businesses in the PA Wilds can be found at wildscopa.org. That's also where you can apply and share your story. So again, thank you and take care.
You're welcome. Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.